we were the explorers. We were the discoverers. And this whole thing fit together. And then you add Christmas time into this equation. And the fact that we were one step further to our milestone, which was now to put man on the moon. It was a miraculous time at Christmas Eve.
For all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
It was the eve of the launch of Apollo 11. Commander of the mission was Neil Armstrong, a 38-year-old civilian from a small Midwestern town. Considered to be reserved, introverted, and a brilliant test pilot, Armstrong would be first to set foot on the lunar surface.
Tomorrow, we, the crew of Apollo 11, are privileged to represent the United States in our first attempt to take man to another heavenly body.
Edwin Buzz Aldrin would descend with Armstrong to the moon. Aldrin was an intense high achiever, a fighter pilot who had flown 66 combat missions in Korea, a mathematician, and the only astronaut with a doctorate. Michael Collins was destined never to walk on the moon. As pilot of the command module, he would remain orbiting the moon until Armstrong and Aldrin returned. He knew that if anything happened on the lunar surface, he would have to come home alone.
I do have one complaint, however. I'd like to point out to those of you, particularly in the television business, that I have no TV set on board, and therefore I'm going to be one of the few Americans who's not going to be able to see the EVA, so I'd like you to save the tapes for me, please. I'd like to look at them after the flight.
I feel privileged to be alive with all of the other billions of people on this earth on this date when this huge thing is going on. In future generations, other races of people, other generations of people will look back to this summer and say, oh, how wonderful it must have been to have been alive then when this huge step, which ensures a victory over time and space and eternity for all of us, how wonderful to have been alive when that happened.
I remember coming into work that morning. There were 1 million to 2 million people in a 25-mile radius of the Space Center. People were lying in the streets. There was no more bread, no more milk, no groceries. Everyone that I'd ever heard of, I think I had about 20 visitors that showed up at my house because there was no place to stay. And I told my wife she had to take care of all 20 people because I was going to be gone for the next 24 hours. And so coming in, you begin to get the realization that something was getting ready to happen. It was momentous. I reflected as I came by early in the morning, the fact that all was swampland and farming land, and that used to be orange groves there, big. You looked at the pad, you saw the Saturn V out there, it was big. I began to reflect on the fact that we were getting ready to do something big.
we are, on the 16th day of July, about to send 3 men to the moon, 2 to actually walk on it. It's difficult for any of us, really, to grasp this fantastic idea, but this date, July 16th, will be written in history that all men will know about from this day forward.
I remember the searchlights arced over the vehicle, looked like a cathedral. And all our checkouts had worked. In a strange way, would think of, Columbus' ship setting out from Spain, heading for a world he didn't know exactly what it was going to be like. But we were setting out on a new venture. We had done our preparations. The next step had to be taken. There was questions, could you land on the moon? We'd been near the moon, we'd been around it. But now, could you land on it? There were still unknowns. You knew you were facing unknowns.
The 3 suited up in the astronauts' quarters, ready to board the van for the 8-mile drive to the launch pad.
They take with them this morning the good wishes and the admiration of a world of people. As man, a species born and who's lived all his life on Earth, moves with this journey out into the solar system, and so, presumably, begins with this journey his dispersal in other places out in the universe.
I had a period of about maybe 30 minutes standing by myself on the launch tower, almost near the top, not quite to the spacecraft, but there wasn't another human being close at sight, and I could see the waves coming in, the sun slowly rising, and see the evidence, the parked cars of all the people out watching our launch 3, 5, 10 miles away, just millions of people. And it was quite a symbolic moment that I said to my, hey, Buzz, you better remember this one.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We've just passed the 31-minute mark in our count. The T-minus 30 minutes, 52 seconds and counting. The lunar module on Apollo 11, of course, when it separates from the command module in lunar orbit, will have the call sign Eagle. Both Columbia and Eagle are go at this time at 29 minutes, 24 seconds and counting. This is Kennedy Launch Control.
It has to be over 100 degrees here in the broiling Florida sun, where the VIPs, the very important persons, and indeed the VVIPs, the very